It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. So, Alan.
Smitty.
What do you want to talk about?
Last day OTAs today.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis didn't sign.
Gabe Davis did not sign. He was there. More, I guess, Beanie Bishop stuff getting rehashed.
Cam Hayward said that Chris Boswell is going to be at
minicamp.
Yeah.
Still on, I guess we'll see about TJ Watt potentially. But yeah, I got nothing else going on. Maybe we just answer a bunch of questions.
Slow news day.
Oh, something came out just a couple hours ago. Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is going to be in town tomorrow to sign.
Well, Smitty, we knew that. I mean, he was going to sign with the Steelers. It's been old news.
I am so mad though, Alan, because I texted you. I'd go back and look at what time it was, but I texted you and said I hesitate to even say this because of all the twists and turns that we've taken along this journey. But I got word that Aaron's going to be signing in the building tomorrow. And I didn't do anything with that information because I was like, there's been too many bumps in the road here for me to put this out. Like, and I literally had the day too. So it wasn't just
did do some ththings with that information, but I wasn't able to get it confirmed by anybody else before Jerry Dulac reported it. So
12:19 p.m. was when I texted you.
To Jerry, of course, one of the best to ever do it. No shame in that one, but yeah. Aaron Rodgers, he will be in Pittsburgh tomorrow. I don't know that this deal is done.
Okay.
I mean, I think that they've let me say this. I think there are still some details that have yet to be discussed about the contract. Like, I haven't heard people say how much. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. I expect it to be 1 year deal, and I expect it to be for less than $20 million. That's what I've basically been told, but I don't think there's a firm number yet.
Pelissero's post, I think, said 1 year deal, but I haven't seen the financial thing. But the only thing with that, man, I don't know if I want to say that he lost all of his, because I guess the bargaining chip that he had was he did say that he was going to retire or whatever, but publicly saying that you're going to play for $10 million and then playing for twice that.
Well, I think that the Steelers had made an offer in March that was never countered to my knowledge. So I believe the thing that was communicated was, hey, okay, yes, I'll sign it. But that was just an offer, not a full-fledged contract. You understand what I'm saying? So there's always details that need to be hammered out. And I don't know what the dollar figure on that offer was. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's going to be obviously a bunch of questions that come along with this, and we can talk about the fit and stuff like that. I actually wanted to bring up something that I was literally having a conversation with somebody last night about this exact same thing. I'll bring it to this platform now. Do we think that now that this will be done, there's a lot of other pieces of, we're still waiting on, right? The TJ Watt contract extension. I brought up his name, but I want to dive into the receiver or tight end part of this now. Do you think, okay, now Aaron's in tow, we can kind of have a conversation with him and see what he's looking for. They can really start to explore other options and expand that search.
I don't know if they're going to expand the search because I think the search has been pretty expansive, but I do think it's one more thing that's done ahead of it that needed to be done. I don't think you were getting a lot of free agent wide receivers to sign up to play with Mason Rudolph. Now I think you're a little bit more, but if you're a free agent in July or in June, you don't have many options anyway. But I just think it presents a better picture for a player thinking about coming to Pittsburgh. I think, they have an opportunity now to have not a great offense, but a good offense. I think that is now on the table that they could be an above average to good offense with Aaron Rodgers, but they still need to do some work. They just Aaron Rodgers is not going to get them there. They're still short at wide receiver. We've talked yesterday a lot about what we feel like is a weakness at tight end. The offensive line has question marks. I don't think they need any players to add. Maybe like a swing tackle wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but like mostly it's about whether or not the guys they have are going to develop the way they hope they will. But I mean, I think you can kind of see it now, right?
Yeah, internal growth, obviously, from the offensive line, and then at least, one external addition when you're talking about the pass catching group. I think that's probably the way that I'm looking at it. But I guess the reason that I brought it up that way is, okay, Aaron Rodgers in town now. Does that automatically mean, hey, let's make a call to the Jets and see about the availability of Allen Lazard?
I think Allen Lazard should have been high on their list anyway, whether they had Rodgers or not. And I do wonder if Lazard was waiting to see where Rodgers was going before saying, hey, can I get out of here? We'll see. He's under contract. I think I want to say $5 million. Is that right? So
I was asked if you think that do the Jets value him enough to say, like, hey, we don't want to play against this guy week 1 next season. We don't want to trade him to Pittsburgh.
I mean, that's certainly going to play a factor. $4.6 million cap hit, $2.25 million base salary with some roster bonuses. So would cost the Steelers less than $3 million, actually less than $2.5 million. And would be a $2+ million dead cap hit for the Jets if traded. I mean, I think the Steelers playing the Jets week 1 definitely makes that trade a little bit more difficult than it otherwise might have.
Yeah. Well, and the other reason that I used the words that I did in terms of an expansive search is, the free agent market. Obviously, they had Gabe Davis in and didn't sign a contract when he left. But like, if Aaron comes in here and he's like, the type of receiver that I'm looking for is a Keenan Allen, a name that like we've obviously talked about potentially being an option, but like the team hasn't necessarily shown interest in, at least like externally. We don't know that externally. If they've had those conversations in the building, potentially that has happened, but we wouldn't know that has taken place. But do you think that Aaron's going to have that type of influence where if he goes in there and he looks at the free agent receiver market and he sees a Keenan Allen out there and he's like, that's the type of receiver that I'm looking for, would he have that type of pull?
I don't really get the sense that the Steelers are looking for Aaron Rodgers to have that kind of role or influence in the organization. I think he's the quarterback. I don't think they're signing up for Aaron Rodgers, the general manager. That being said, if there's a connection, a relationship, I think Aaron Rodgers can be a draw that maybe didn't exist before he was here, and maybe they'll lean on that. But I don't know that there's a player out there that he has that kind of connection or relationship with outside of maybe Lazard, who, like I said, I think if the Steelers trade for Allen,
he played with Dobbs for what, 1 year? Did he play with Dobbs for a year in Green Bay, or was it the very next year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so that's a good shout. But like, I think if the Steelers traded for Allen Lazard, the reaction would be exactly what you're saying. Oh, here goes Aaron, getting his buddies. But like, he had 500 receiving yards last year and 6 touchdowns. Where are the Steelers getting better than that right now? Like, that's pretty much what they're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not looking for him to have a ton of influence in that way either. We've seen him, bring some friends along that were probably should Randall Cobb have continued to play ball as long as he did? Probably not. I think that you've seen some situations like that and kind of the way that the Jets built that roster out kind of surrounding Aaron. But yeah, I think, that aspect is going to be interesting to see there. I think the relationships within the building are going to be interesting. The reaction to it, the first person that I thought about, honestly, funny enough, when I saw this news, was Deshaun Elliott, going back to the Instagram comment that he made regarding Aaron Rodgers. So I'll be curious as to see how that goes. I would want to ask Deshaun, like, right away, his reaction now that he's going to be signing.
Yeah, Deshaun's a character. I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it. Apparently, they have a good relationship already. I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay.
Brandon Eccles talked a lot about how much he enjoyed playing with Aaron Rodgers when he first came to the Steelers from the Jets. Was definitely someone who was in Rodgers' corner. I actually saw a video clip that's been going around of him like talking to Rodgers on the sideline at OTAs or training camp last year. Was pretty funny. And now they're both Steelers. So yeah.
The other thing that you said within there, in terms of maybe being a little bit of pull for outside players to want to come here now, and for anybody that thinks that like that's not the case because of his age and obviously a declining player and stuff like that. I mean, just listen to other players still the way that they talk about him. I mean, young receivers maybe save Garrett Wilson, who has played with him the last couple of years, and things didn't go the way that they would have expected. Still talk about him being somebody that they would have all wanted to have caught past. George Pickens, who the team just traded, talked about that being the one quarterback that he'd hope to play with. So I think that there's still some, if for nothing else, the name value that he still carries that is still appealing to guys. Like, should it be appealing to continue to play with this version of Aaron Rodgers? Probably not as much as I think it actually is, like, in these guys' minds. Like, there's still that desire to do so, again, despite him being a depreciating asset.
And I think, like, when you look at things compared to like the way an NFL player will look at this compared to the way a fan will look at this, a fan will look at Aaron Rodgers and say he's washed up and only going to get worse. And a fan will find a reason to convince themselves that Mason Rudolph can still be better because he's never really been given a chance or whatever. The NFL player is going to have the exact opposite mindset. There isn't an NFL player existence other than maybe Garrett Wilson, who seemingly didn't like Aaron Rodgers for whatever reason. It's going to, and even then, I kind of doubt I'd rather play with Rudolph than Rodgers. Like, they're going to look at what this guy's done and be like, yes, I want to be with that guy. Not like what this guy could maybe do. Like, they're going to have the total opposite mindset. I think Rodgers will be very well received by the team. I think most of the team has understood that he has been coming. I don't think it's been some big secret that everyone thought this was going to happen. Plenty of them had seen him on his visit. And so, I think this is going to be something that the current Steelers in the locker room, for the most part, are going to be very happy with. And I do think will be a real draw if the thing is that, like, what's the situation that needs a draw? Like, if you're going to trade for a guy that Green Bay is going to cut, it doesn't matter. If you're going to sign Amari Cooper, who has no better options, it probably doesn't matter. Maybe if you're trying to pry Jonnu Smith away from the Dolphins, it matters a little bit because then he has to sign a contract and stuff like that. But like, I think he will be a draw, but I don't know how much that's really going to play into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point too. The other part of it and why I said, just like the relationships, obviously with the players, how he's going to be received. And we talked about this before, but hard to say how things are going to go until we actually see how they go. But I posted a clip of Artie Smith when he was the Falcons head coach, like throwing his hands up. And somebody actually responded to me and said that was on a Van Jefferson drop, which makes it all that much funnier. And it's Jonnu Smith right next to Artie Smith in the clip. So there's just a lot of connections and potential connections within that clip that are funny. But we've talked about Artie Smith and Aaron Rodgers, the potential relationship and the way that it was going to go, just because obviously the stuff that happened towards the end of last year with Russell Wilson, how Aaron Rodgers likes to run the show and wants to have that free reign at the line of scrimmage. I mean, without trying to predict fully how this is going to go, what do we make of this potential relationship just based off the information that we have about both guys?
I don't know that Arthur Smith, if you like asked him like, what's your ideal quarterback, is going to describe someone like Aaron Rodgers. But I think the entire reason we're here is that Arthur Smith didn't, well, maybe not the entire reason, but a big part of the reason that we're here is that Arthur Smith didn't want Russell Wilson. So, beggars can't be choosers. I don't know. I'll say this. I think some of the things that frustrated Arthur Smith with Russell Wilson were his inability to run the entirety of the offense. Like, so many people harp on, well, Steelers never threw the ball over the middle of the field. Well, they wanted to. The quarterback couldn't do it. There's nothing that Aaron Rodgers can't do. I think if I'm Arthur Smith, I would rather have a potentially sometimes contentious relationship with a guy who is at least physically capable of doing every part of the job I want him to do. And Arthur Smith Russell Wilson, more mobile than Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career. That's not what his offense is all about. It's not like he is running Nick Sirianni's offense with the Eagles where he has to have it. Like, it was nice to have, and they used it a little bit, but Ryan Tannehill wasn't that mobile. I think that there's no reason that Aaron Rodgers can't do the things that Ryan Tannehill did for Arthur Smith.
Well, and the guy that was going to be in place should Aaron Rodgers have not signed was going to be Mason Rudolph, and we're not sitting here
Also,
talking about his
yeah,
mobility
not mobile at all. Right.
either. And I mean, Will Howard, decent athlete. He has an 80-yard rushing touchdown under his belt, but it's certainly not the first thing that you think about when it comes to Will Howard's game. But yeah, that is the relationship for me that's going to be the one to watch, just because of the way things went down towards the end of last year. But that's a good point. I mean, Russ, physical limitations stopped him from being able to do everything that you want of the job. So I think that that's going to be a big part of that. I will say we've talked a lot about too how there was clearly a relationship with Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, a mutual respect that they've had going back quite a bit. On this very podcast, I will 100%, old takes expose myself. I had said, I didn't think that this was going to happen at this point in his career. Like, I just thought that it was going to be one of those things where we look back on and there was an alternate universe where Mike Tomlin had Aaron Rodgers play for him at some point. But I didn't think it would be in this one, because I just felt like he's at a place in his career where it doesn't make sense, and the Steelers are at a point where it's not going to make sense. That was going in to free agency. I actually thought if it was going to happen, it would happen, when he left Green Bay to go to the Jets, obviously at that point. Obviously, we've talked about this quite a bit now, with it being an option that makes sense, being that you're obviously not committing anything to 2026. Still somebody that is like easy for the guys on the team to buy into in terms of like, this is a guy that we feel like we can win with. But now that we've seen the way that this is fully played out and they got the guy that they've clearly been targeting this entire time, what do you make of, the process and this being the eventual landing spot that we got to?
Seems like the process was pretty good. I don't think there was a quarterback out there that was available this offseason to the Pittsburgh Steelers that was better than Aaron Rodgers. So I don't really know how you can now. Maybe that will time to be wrong. Maybe without trying to be wrong. Maybe Sam Darnold will be an MVP candidate this year. Maybe Daniel Jones will resurrect his career and look like a star player, or at least have like a Geno Smith style resurrection, and then we'll look at this and say, the Steelers kind of whiffed. But I don't see a player I don't see a path that right now looks better than the one they took.
Yeah, excuse me. Everybody talks about the Justin Fields obviously being the one that they wanted them to go in terms of that route. And, even somebody that covers the Jets today put out about, Justin Fields was their top option, the Steelers' top option, and missed out on him and then pivoted. I think it's important context to say, like, at their price, he was like, that's
they wanted Justin Fields because they thought he would be cheap.
Yeah. Like, it's not like the Steelers put forth some massive contract in front of him and he said no to go sign with the Jets. They wanted him at their price, which was not the
and
Jets
they didn't
price
even attempt to counter the Jets offer.
Yeah. Right.
They were just like, no, never mind. Somebody's going to give you that. Fine. See you.
It's now pointless to talk about, but what I will say is the one thing that could have made this whole thing go south to me, I think I said it on here, was if, the Rodgers thing wouldn't have happened and then they would have traded for Kirk Cousins, because you're giving up, regardless of what the asset or whatever would have been. To me, it's more so about committing money in 2026 as well. And that would have been completely going against, the idea of giving Justin Fields the contract that he got with the Jets. So that to me would have been the one pivot, if you will, that I would have been like, okay, now I can't sign up for what we ended up getting as the end result here.
I'll be honest, I don't think the Steelers had any real interest in Kirk Cousins. I think all of the Kirk Cousins stuff over the last few weeks has been the Steelers using the last bit of their leverage to try to get Aaron Rodgers to show up.
I was just saying, do you even think that was the Steelers doing that, or if it was just like people in the media connecting dots, because this team's obviously needing a quarterback still?
I mean, it could have been that too.
Yeah.
But here's why I think it's a little bit of a pressure play from the Steelers. Mm-hmm. You see all these reporters, in fact, some reporters very connected to the Steelers, like Jeremy Fowler, saying, the Steelers may pivot to Kirk Cousins if Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign. You also have people like Charlie Batch, who works for the team, saying if Aaron Rodgers isn't here by minicamp, the Steelers should start Mason Rudolph week 1. Like, I do think if he had missed minicamp, I don't think the Steelers would have backed off. but I think it would have harmed some relationships in the room before he even walked in the door. Like that would have caused some bad feelings among the veterans on the team that I think would have, I don't want to say they would have ruined the whole thing, but like it certainly could have been a fly in the ointment. And I think the Steelers really wanted to avoid that. And I think they're very happy that they have avoided that. And I kind of feel like this Cousins thing and the talking about starting Rudolph stuff was all just a bit of a play to say, hey buddy, come on, let's go. And you know, I don't know. I can't confirm that or anything, nor will I even try, but that's what it feels like to me because Kirk Cousins just doesn't fit. I mean, I'd rather play Mason Rudolph, I think, personally. Like I don't see it there.
You did it again. You answered a question that I was going to ask afterwards. I wanted to say how important you thought it was for Aaron to sign at this point, to be there for next week. Because we've talked about it, like, is it possible for him to not and go to training camp or whatever? Yeah, and I still think that he would end up being the starting quarterback, but like to have this weight off the shoulder, if you will, and know that it's officially locked in just from all parties, even if they fully expected that he was going to be there. I think they're just, you go into the weekend with some good vibes, just knowing that this is going to be done.
I'm actually a little surprised it's out today. Even when we had heard that he might be in town tomorrow, I was thinking this wouldn't come out until tomorrow, maybe even in Monday. But yeah, I mean, look, I think, and there's a difference between OTAs and minicamp. OTAs are pure instruction. Veterans do nothing at OTAs. I don't want to say nothing, but like veterans who are returning to play the same position do basically nothing. And even new veterans don't do that much. It's not harmful to miss OTAs for a player of NFL experience. Minicamp, on the other hand, like that's the full press install of your offense and defense. Like, not to say that a player of Aaron Rodgers' experience couldn't make it up, but I think it would start to be I think there would start to be a negative actual impact on his ability to perform his job. And I definitely think there would be hard feelings about 90 other, or well, I mean, however many veterans the Steelers have that also don't want to be at minicamp, having to be at minicamp because it's mandatory, and then Aaron Rodgers not being
there. I'm trying to figure out how to word this question because I don't want it to like sound stupid, because from an OTA's perspective, in terms of what they're actually doing. Okay, so Will Howard's the example that I want to use here. Because would Aaron Rodgers' presence there, had he been there, have done anything for a guy like Will Howard, or no? Because Aaron hasn't played, obviously, for this organization either before.
If anything, it would have hurt it because he would have got fewer reps.
Less reps, yeah.
What the young guys need are reps. The Steelers don't want their veterans at OTAs. They want them there for leadership, for mentorship. They don't want them there practicing because they want the younger guys to get the reps. Like they wanted Will Howard to get all those reps. They wanted, to see what Jack Sawyer can do, right? Like they're not. They certainly want to see what Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson can do in a bigger role. The Steelers have lost zero sleep over guys like T.J. Watt, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Hayward missing time. Like that's not Cam Hayward. DK Metcalf missing time at OTAs. In fact, they're fine with it. And even when those guys show up, they get told to not do very much.
Yeah. To be honest, before you said that, I completely forgot that DK Metcalf he wasn't at any of them, right? Even going back to last week, any of the 6.
No, it was not.
Yeah. All right. Well, he'll be returning too. I wonder why Cam Hayward didn't give him a shout along with the Chris Boswell thing. But do you have any more to add on the Aaron? There is one more thing that I wanted to bring up that's not Aaron Rodgers related. So anything else that is related to Aaron Rodgers?
I see a lot of people that are very down on this move, and I can understand part of it. Rodgers is a fairly polarizing individual. I understand that some people don't like him.
Yeah.
Outside of just not liking him, I don't like. I can't think of a reason to not like this move. And I'm curious if people do have a reason to not like this move outside of just not liking him, or if they mostly just don't like him. Like,
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, even though I think he is, based off what I saw from him in the second half of last year, and assuming that there's even just a slight decline, I think he's going to provide them with their best quarterback play that they've seen since Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think that he is so good where he's going to make up for that with his play for the people not liking him for the person. You know what I mean? So like I don't think that it's going to outweigh that for those people. So, and I'm never going to tell somebody how to be a fan. Like if you don't like the guy for personal reasons, that's why you didn't want him to be on the football team that you root for. I can fully understand that. I mean, going back to last year, right? Like we had a lot of people in the comments after I said I did not want the team to re-sign Cam Sutton for personal reasons. And people are like, well, he makes them a better football. Well, we saw how that played out. But at the time, we wouldn't have known that it was going to go as poorly as it did. But understanding, I thought he was going to be an asset for the football team, but I still did not want him to play for my favorite football team. If people feel, obviously, Aaron has not done something like Cam Sutton did there. But if people don't like him for whatever their personal feelings are towards him, don't want him on the football team because of that, I get it and don't think that he's so good where he's going to make up for that for people.
It's an interesting comparison because, like, look at Cam Sutton, like someone charged with a fairly serious crime. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And like lots of those guys over the years, whether charged or accused or whatever you want. I mean, we can go down the list of like Steelers greats with significant black marks on their record, including Ben Roethlisberger, including James Harrison, who are generally sort of held up as, Steelers greats.
Antonio Brown.
I think Antonio Brown's legacy is a little bit more complicated because the way he forced his way off the team that those guys didn't. But yeah, I mean, if Antonio Brown had just been crazy and borderline criminal, but still played for the Steelers, I think people would still love him. Like
that's what they say is as bad as it's going to sound, people would have been willing to look past everything if he, like Steelers fans, if he would have been willing to continue to play for that team.
So I think it's a little curious that like people have such a strong feeling about Aaron Rodgers, who has some weird socio-political beliefs. Like, is that his biggest crime? I just, it's allegedly a very bad boyfriend, according to Olivia Munn. Like, I don't know. Like what?
Yeah. Oh, I got some things in the bookmarks. If things do go south with Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
I just, I try to, I want to know, like, and I do think there are some people who just want the team to be worse, which I don't understand and think are deeply wrong. But I do know those people exist, and certainly they did get better today by signing Aaron Rodgers. So, you have that, but, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just, do you see a football reason to not like this move? I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
I mean, there's certainly a world where he's like significantly worse, or I guess he gets hurt like very early, and then it's Mason, and like injuries can happen to anybody, but he is a significantly higher risk of getting injured than say a Justin Fields. So I think that people might circle back to that if he ends up getting hurt. But like, no, I mean, assuming health, again, I'm even like say he does take a little bit of a step back. I don't know. Maybe I guess you could call it hopium, but like before we were even discussing the idea of them signing Aaron Rodgers, I was watching him the second half of last season and saying, okay, it looks like there's still some, like he can still spin it. Like, sure, he's not going to be the same athlete or anything like that, but it looks like he's able to plant again, which I think was a big reason why the first half was as poorly as it was because of the Achilles, and he still couldn't plant right and get that velocity on the ball. So I mean, I think that there's a world where it happens. I just don't, going back to yesterday, the conversation about, all the buts and stuff like that, what needs to go wrong, what needs to go right, what's reasonable, what's not. I think it's reasonable that Aaron is going to take a slight decline, but still be give them their best quarterback play since Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing I want to mention, as I saw a lot of people talking about this on social media. He's not going to wear 12. You can cross that one off. And I just tweeted this. Big winner today is Corliss Waitman, who can now pretty much name his price for number 8. So we'll see what Corliss is able to get out of this deal, because he can get something, I'm sure.
A nice bag, maybe a few doses of ayahuasca.
Well, Aaron did say he's looking to leave California, so maybe you can get the house in Malibu.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else there. Wired headphones. They can't be Bluetooth. So yeah, I don't know. Corliss Waitman's got a bag waiting for him. Real quick before we do get out of here, the last thing I wanted to mention was Gabe Davis being in but not signing a contract. It's, I guess, a little bit more common, but still not very, going back to reasonable. It doesn't happen a ton where you see a guy leave a building and then end up signing a contract later on. Do you think it's a little bit different just because of like Gabe coming back from the knee and stuff like that? Or would you be like pretty much rolling out a signing at this point?
Yeah, no. So actually, I would not rule it out at this point. I mean, I would rule it out at this point, but I wouldn't rule it out going forward
down the line. Yeah.
If you remember Jamal Agnew, the Jaguars kick returner who the Steelers signed last year. Now, obviously, a very different level of transaction than signing Gabe Davis, but the Steelers brought in Jamal Agnew in like August or September, early in the year. Brought him in on a visit and said, "You know what? You're not healthy yet. Come back to us." And then 3 months later, he calls him and says, "I think I'm ready to go." And they signed him. And so obviously a very different quality of player, but I think there's definitely a chance that the answer could have been, okay, well, go get yourself ready to go and then let us know.
There's a reason they wanted to bring him in to get familiar.
I cannot confirm why he left without a contract, but I have a very hard time believing that Gabe Davis proved to the Steelers that he is 100% healthy and they let him walk out the door without a contract.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, normally you see guys that are working back from this, like eager to post videos on social media and stuff of them running around. I have not seen that from Gabe Davis. So again, not trying to
didn't from either his other stops either.
But yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think that I think he's still a little bit away from being at a level where he needs to be in order to get a contract. So we'll see if that happens down the road or if it's somebody else they pivot to. But good stuff as always. And man, it's already Thursday. So just one more episode this week, tomorrow. But Alan, until then, tell the people they can find you.
_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now is the site's account. SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so that I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. You missed the biggest sale we've ever had, so I'm sorry. I wish I could have let it go on forever, but these decisions are made above my pay grade. But it's still only $4 and change a month, $40 a year. A great deal for ad-free readership at SN Plus. All the best content from me, DB, and the rest of the Steelers Now team. Subs only live streams, which we are going to have following minicamp next week, and all kinds of other great benefits of being a Steelers Now subscriber. You also just get to help us do a better job and go places and be. I was actually just looking up places to stay for training camp today, and we rely on subscribers to make that happen. We have a boatload of people who did take advantage of the sale. So we are very backed up in our shout outs down here on the ticker, but make sure do know we will get to you. Smitty has the list. And
I updated it today. So we got 4 new ones down there right now. Brian Schaefer, Michael Zoffel, Rushab Patel, and Marco Orantia. Yeah, something like that.
Better at the Italian ones than the Indian ones. I can handle that. But yeah, we really appreciate everyone who took advantage of the sale. And I don't know, sign up and check it out. Even if you just do a month. And dude, the ad free on SteelersNow.com I was logged out on one of my computers the other day. I was like, oh my God, I got to get rid of this. I just, it's definitely worth it. And then of course, hey, I had somebody reach out to me yesterday and said, I'd love to help out, with your subscriber sale. Money's really tight for us right now. Hey, I get it. Everyone can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is free. And you don't miss an episode of Steelers Morning Rush, Steelers Afternoon Drive, Sights and Sounds, practice reports, all the stuff we've got going on here on the YouTube channel. You definitely don't want to miss anything. So hit that bell for notifications. We have 15,839 subscribers.
Ooh.
That is a
we know who's
number.
Yeah, we know who's been had a lock on that number since 2019. Who would it have been before that? Willie Parker, obviously the most notable before that, I think.
The one that comes to my mind is Darren Perry, who was the safety in the early to mid 1990s. I'm not coming up with too many more though that come to my mind.
Yeah, not a great number. I think that's why everybody's kind of expected that Minka was going to switch. Minka might have switched if he didn't have the year that he did when he wore number 39. Like he said that was, I played so well in it, I didn't want to change to something else because he would.
He also wore 29 in Miami, which is an equally not great number.
Yeah.
So
it's not like and when he came to Pittsburgh, he was blocked by the great Cam Kelly and couldn't have 29 here, so he had to be number 39. Cam Kelly,
who made it like 6 weeks of that season before getting cut.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna go Willie Parker. Like I know that it's supposed to be obscure, but I can't think of another number 39.
All right. Let us know if you got one.
Yeah. Without looking it up, and I'll know if you Googled it to figure out a number 39 in Steelers history. But yes, let us know in the comments. Again, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure there's a 5-star review and subscribe over there. I'll keep saying it. We have not gotten a 5-star review since that excellent one that we had read.
And I just think people too high.
Yeah, people are afraid to follow it up, I think. But take a shot. Take your best swing. Step up to the plate and swing for the fences. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do that over there. Do the same on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.